Welcome and thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about something that seems relatively pertinent to those of us who are in midlife and beyond, and that is longevity. But a lot of times when you hear about health and longevity, we're trying to find ways to beat it and get around it. But what if we had a more genetic approach to something like this where we can understand the key that might be able to tell the tale of what our course in life will be? On the program today, we're going to be joined with leading live food medical doctor and spiritual nutrition expert, Dr. Gabriel Cousens. He's also the founder of the Tree of Life Center in Patagonia, Arizona. He's been on the program many times, and today we're going to be talking about the ends of the chromosomes, which are known as telomeres. And I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program our guest, Dr. Gabriel Cousens. Dr. Cousens, how are you today?
I'm really great. How you doing, Dave?
You feeling energetic? I mean, you're like in your late 90s now, aren't you? Running 7 miles a day, 500 push-ups and the like.
Yeah. 600 push-ups, 29 chin-ups.
So what you been up to these days?
70. Well, I actually just got back from Cameroon. We're setting up diabetes prevention, screening, and program throughout all of Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got back about 2-3 days ago.
Now, this telomeres, I was kind of surprised that I'd be talking with you today about this, because generally we're talking about nutrition, a spiritual approach to longevity, and also diabetes, because you're one of the leading experts on helping people to understand what this is and how they can even reverse it. But
Right.
Tell us how you came to approach this particular point of view, or this subject, for instance.
The issue of telomeres is fascinating. And first we've got to understand what a telomere is, okay? It's the tips of the chromosome, okay? Like if you have a shoelace, it's the little plastic thing.
Right.
But it isn't really that. That's kind of a gross kind of simplification. What they are is they regulate chromosome function and integrity. With every time a cell divides, however, the telomeres get shorter. So at a certain age, depending on what you start with, what you're born with, everybody gets a different length, okay, they become too short to properly guide cell division, and then you start to have loss of chromosome integrity. The extreme of that would be cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue from an anti-aging point of view, or really a health point of view, is what do you do to keep your telomeres from getting shorter? And even more exciting, what do you do to help them get longer? That's really interesting. So I began studying the question. It's been around for a few years. People know about it. Came across a thing called Product B, which I'm thinking, what kind of fantastic results are going on? And it is specifically for telomerase, which is an enzyme that lengthens the telomeres. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But more important, keeps them from shortening or slows the shortening process. So that's interesting. Now the next question is, what indeed does it? Well, yes, these are herbal combinations that are prepared a certain way. But what about lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
And the research is showing really two things, and that's what makes it all so exciting. Okay, one thing is by good lifestyle, we can slow the shortening of the telomeres, and that is, again, a plant-based diet, meditation, breathing exercises, positive, loving relationships, those kind of things that we've kind of been talking about for years, but now we have proof that it works. More recently, which is even more exciting, is that work was done on this whole issue that came out in the Journal of Oncology, and it was work by Dr. Dean Ornish, and they found something extremely interesting. You can lengthen the telomeres. Wow. Well, how do you do that? They looked at yoga, pranayama, or breathing exercises, meditation, and then we also know that a vegan-based diet, plant-source diet, and loving relationships, and minimal stress in your life, actually now, in a 5-year study, they showed that you got a 10% increase in telomere length. Now, that's really profound.
Mm-hmm.
That's new research. It really, really just came out 2013, October 2013. So, that's hot off the press.
Mm-hmm.
So now, not only those good things like the 80% to 100% live food, meditation, pranayama, time in nature, loving relationships, living productively, these are all things that actually not only slow the shortening, but actually can lengthen the telomeres. That is profoundly exciting, and then completely supports everything I've been teaching without using the word telomere, the holistic lifestyle that actually really does keep you young and vibrant and in really good health.
Mm-hmm.
So the findings are absolutely exciting, and they're really validating now what we've known now for ages, but now we have, let's say, hard science supporting the fact that you can actually increase the length of your telomeres. And therefore, can we say you're reversing aging? I don't know how far we go with that. We have to be careful with that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But certainly, lengthening your telomeres can only be going in the right direction. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only research that I've done that really I can see this is this product B. It clearly, people feel younger, clearer, more active, clearer mind. We've seen literally, and I don't know anything more than this is just clinical observation, Alzheimer's reverse itself, increased endurance, strength, energy, up to 25% more, chronic pain and inflammation going away. This is all properly functioning telomeres, really anti-aging. Reversing of liver spots, hair and nail growth, improving digestion, better control of blood sugar, better control of sleep. Now, these are all aging symptoms, and in observing, these people and their testimonials, I'm seeing pretty dramatic things. So I'm seeing kind of an anti-aging effect, but which is now, since it's easier to do it. You take product B, boom, everybody's on the same page, and I can track it, if that makes sense. So it's very exciting. But the lifestyle thing is, in a sense, validating the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So what you eat and your lifestyle, of course, what you eat is part of your lifestyle, are all connected with slowing the telomere shortening, and literally, at least in this one study, over 5 years, a 10% increase in length. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's how I got into it.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Cousens, what makes this also fascinating is on our program over the last many years, there was Dr. Bruce Lipton that I came across, and a lot of people are familiar with his work, The Biology of Belief. And what was, to me, a slight misfortune about that book is that it went over into more of the metaphysical belief systems, and kind of manifesting and things like that, rather than really taking a real look at what the story in the book was about, which I found really fascinating. And kind of putting this in the position of the ideas of disease, for instance, cancer, that there's this belief out there about cancer that if in your family there was a genetic predisposition for cancer, your chances of having cancer were probably pretty good. But when you pay attention to, for instance, his work and what you're talking about here and the real truth about genetics and adaptation, you would realize, well, that's maybe not so true anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the longevity research, the geneticists are basically saying after the age of 40, genes play about 25% of a role.
Okay.
So it's not really a big player. 25% is still 25%, but it's not like 90%.
Right.
So we're not determined by our genes. Let's put it this way. I'm going to say genes load the gun, they don't pull the trigger on ill health.
Okay.
And so my teaching pretty consistently is with that we can indeed upgrade the quality of our gene expression by our lifestyle, which completely fits with the telomere thing, because the longer your telomeres, the better the DNA functions. So we're literally upgrading it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're not talking wishful thinking here. We're really talking hardcore science. Now, I understand how people get into the magical thinking, which is a problem, because clearly a positive attitude, which all the things I'm talking about, meditating, loving relationships, and so create, has a positive effect on your telomeres. Okay? So that's all true, but it's not magical.
Right.
You know, it is kind of like whatever's going on that lengthens the telomeres, which is the expression of telomerase, which lengthens the telomeres, the enzyme. The release of telomerase is coming from all these good qualities. So we're kind of activating the telomerase enzymatic systems in our DNA by our loving thoughts, by loving relationships, by, meditating, and eating good food. So all of those things, which are not wishful thinking, all play a role in activating the telomerase secretion in our cells.
So really it all comes down to one simple thing, and that is having the habits that create optimum wellness.
Right. And now we can be more specific and say not just optimal wellness, but actually increasing your telomere length. And see now, which is done by activating the telomerase enzyme, which then increases your length. So now we even have a biological, or at least a piece. I don't want to say it's all about telomeres. I want to say it's a piece of the story.
Right.
And they interface. So everything interfaces in a good way, including feeling optimistic and so forth. Now, the Tierman study, which was an 80-year study, 1910 to 1990, clearly showed that people live longer, who had a positive attitude, worked hard at something they really felt strongly about. So working hard was never a problem, but it had to be meaningful work. People who were fastidious, really paid attention to their life. People like me who, going to do research in telomeres and look at all the literature, right? That's fastidious. And eat well, and breathe, and meditate, and walk, and do all the things. You're going to get results. And that's what they show. The people who really pay attention will indeed live longer. Loving relationships, social networks, will indeed live longer. So they looked at all the longevity aspects in this 80-year study, which is very unique, and that simply validates, what we're seeing now in terms of telomeres. They just didn't have the language at that point.
I was kind of curious how you would compare, let's say, America to the rest of the world in aging. Is there a difference there?
Interesting question. We are living about 2 to 3 years longer, but I want to turn it around in a different way. Our degree of disability is about 15% higher than it used to be, meaning quality of life. It isn't how long you live. That's a materialistic concept. Yes, we live a few years longer. Everybody's, going up in terms of that around the world. We're certainly not the longest lived people. I think we moved from 13 to 26th in terms of longevity in the world. Okay, first in terms of amount of money we spend on healthcare, but 26 in terms of longevity. But this other factor, which is really important, is disability. And we really do have increased disability with the years. So the quality of life is something like 15 years more of disability, meaning you're not full on.
Right.
The model I use is Moses, and it says, Moses, before he died, he's 120 years old. They say, his vitality is not diminished, nor his eye is dimmed. So he's 120. It's time for him to leave, but he's in great health.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, to me, what I call a model, what I call enduring radiant health. So age, longevity is not the goal. If you're just slightly disabled, you're not 100% on. The idea is to be 100% on at any age. That's what I teach at the Tree of Life Rejuvenation Center, is at any age. So all my programs are designed to take people at any age and get them to optimal. Mm-hmm. And that's my mindset. It's like I know it can be done because I'm doing it with myself. I'm stronger, more flexible, and let's say the mind is clearer even than when I was a medical student, in my 20s. Mm-hmm. Significantly different. So we can do it. You just have to know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And you got to take the right supplements for the brain and the right nutrients and the right lifestyle that supports optimal brain function and obviously body function.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that it's possible, too, and it's quite fascinating to think that there are those who believe as you get older, things begin to break down. And goodness gracious that there isn't enough, as far as the message out there telling us, as you get older, these things are probably going to happen to you, so here's something that you might want to take for that. But, an interesting experience that I had, this was probably about 7 years ago, I guess. My wife's father was up visiting with us, and, actually both of her parents. We decided to take a trip up to Mount St. Helens. Now, for any of you who may have not been to Mount St. Helens, that's, of course, the mountain that blew in Washington, but when you go up there now, you can actually go to where the crater had blown out, and on one side they have actually built this stairwell that probably goes up the length of just over a football field, maybe a little bit further. And it's a pretty steep incline. He gets on this stairwell, and he's more or less running up the stairwell. He gets close to halfway up, and here I am a quarter of the way up, and I'm kind of out of breath. Of course, I was the one doing all the driving anyway, so I was tired as it was. It's like, come on, let's go. Now, this guy was 76 years old, and I was just really impressed by that, that he had that kind of spryness to him. But you see that around, and I know a lot of people think, this must be possible, and obviously, as you're saying, science supports not only is it possible, but if you're at a point that you're feeling that breaking down, here are the steps that you can take moving forward to turn these things around, because there's scientific facts that support this. That's pretty much what we're talking about here, right?
That's exactly what we're talking about. And the truth is, if you don't take care of it, it does break down. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like if you don't get a tune-up on your car, it gets out of tune.
Right.
It's just the way things are. But the other side of it is the way things are is if you take care of it, it gets better in the human dimension. Mm-hmm. We actually can have better brain function. Not, what is it, 50% of the people at age 85 now in this country now have Alzheimer's disease.
Right.
Senility and Alzheimer's. That doesn't have to be. That's a result of inappropriate living. Mm-hmm. And that's the point I'm making.
Now, is there a way that a person can be tested for this telomeres link?
Yeah, the answer is yes. For individuals, it's not as accurate. When you're doing hundreds of people, you get averages, if you follow what I'm saying.
I see. Okay.
And what you really want to measure is the increase in the shortened telomeres. If you just look at telomeres, you don't get it anywhere near as accurate. I don't think the technology is that good when I've talked to the real experts for an individual. It's good for doing a group study because you're doing averages.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get trends. But with yourself, you can't, it could be not entirely accurate because you're not really a trend. You're just one length.
Very fascinating to know about, this relatively seemingly new science anyway, about what's going on here and how we can actually change our lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Really exciting, actually. But this new information? No. I mean, I mentioned the Taryn Report, 1910 to 1990. Everything they talk about with the telomeres has already been established, only they have longevity. How long you live is your baseline rather than your telomere length. The principles have been there for ages. We're just getting another way to validate what we've known.
Very exciting stuff. Is there a website people can find out more about your work?
Yeah. It's drcousens.com.
drcousens.com to find out more.
And if people aren't so much in the computers, they can call 520-394-2520.
Dr. Cousens, thank you again for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. I feel enlightened again.
Perfect. It's always a joy to share and speak with you, and have a very nice holiday season. Everyone out there, may everybody be blessed with a wonderful new year.
And may you lengthen your telomeres. Thanks again, Dr. Cousens.
Okay, take care.
We want to thank you, the listeners out there, and again, on behalf of Beyond 50, have a safe and happy holiday season. Also, be sure to visit us at beyond50radio.com, the number 50. And we do have a wonderful weekly e-news update we encourage you to sign up for as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Again, thank you again for joining us. And remember, live your day past halfway.